Guys, this is the 50mm 1.8G lens. For a lot of people, it's the first lens they buy and the first lens they sell. If you're using a crop sensor camera and all you have is a kit lens, you buy a 50 and now you have a portrait lens. Then you get deeper into the world of photography, and then you get into the 85mm and the exotic zooms, and the 50 starts collecting dust because it's replaced with a 17 to 50 in the case of DX, or maybe a 24 to 70 2.8 in the case of FX. Now, the reviews for this lens are all over the place. Some people say it's sharp but uninspiring. Some people say they don't like the 50 at all, they prefer 35. Some people say why bother with the 50, zooms these days are good enough. But I think the 50 deserves a place in just about every Nikon shooter's kit. On a DX camera, this lens is really popular as well because it's used as a 75mm portrait lens. 75mm as a medium telephoto is perfect for starting out in portraiture, and the 1.8 wide aperture gives you that bokeh, it gives you that low light capability. Now I'll say this right off the bat, if you're looking for that 50mm focal length and you're shooting with a DX camera, what you need is not this, but the 35mm 1.8 DX lens, okay? So we're going to talk about this lens, we're going to talk about the good, the bad. I'm going to show you guys some photos I've taken with this lens, and we'll also talk about the 50mm as a focal length in general and whether it's right for you. When you're in the market for a 50mm lens, you have quite a lot of options. I mean, for one, you've got the older lenses to choose from. You've got all sorts of manual focus lenses, which, well, we frankly don't have time to get into at the moment. But let's say you're picking an autofocus lens. You could get one of the 1.8Ds, 1.4Ds, the newer 1.4G lens if you're looking for that slightly wider aperture. You could also spring for the Sigma Art lens, the 1.4. A bit more expensive, but it's already attained a kind of cult following just because of the beautiful rendering it produces. A little wider, you could go for the Tamron 45. That one has image stabilization. You could go super cheap and get the Yongnuo 50 1.8. So I don't think it's worth it. You might as well go first party, because if you don't like it, the resale value ends up being a lot better than these third-party lenses. Lots of choices, but I think for a lot of people this will be the most sensible option. So I'll just show you guys what this lens looks like up close. You've got the focusing ring here. There's a little focusing window here, so you can see the distance in feet and meters. This is what the back of the lens looks like. Metal connection, not a plastic one, so that's good to see. You can see the back element here. That 7-bladed diaphragm produces reasonably nice bokeh, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. Guys, just like with all AFS-G lenses, there's no aperture ring, right? So your aperture or your f-stop is controlled automatically in camera. They've used a lot of plastic. It's a very simple optical formula made in China. Okay, so this is what the lens looks like when mounted on a D750. The whole package is extremely light, under a kilo, very comfortable to hold. Just such a fun and lightweight combination, guys. Perfect for street photography. Doesn't look too intrusive. I mean, it's a big camera, but I think people relax a bit when they see that you're using it with a smaller lens. Look what happens when you add a lens hood. Look at that. Now it looks like I can start charging money. When you're not using the lens hood, you can simply store it away like this. So what are the good things about this lens? It's very light, as we mentioned. It's quite affordable. $200 new, cheaper than that used. 58mm filter thread, so you won't spend too much money on big filters. It's very sharp, guys. Maybe at 1.8, some of you, if you look very closely, will notice some softness at the edges, but by f2.2, guys, this thing starts getting super sharp. By f2.8, the vignetting goes away. I don't know what more you could want. I mean, if anything, people would like nicer bokeh. Very quick to autofocus. You have to listen very closely. The autofocus is very quiet. It's great in low light situations. So if you don't have any prime lenses and you want to start a prime lens collection, I think this one's a great one to start with. For the price and the fact that you get the 1.8 wide open aperture. Okay, so there has to be something bad about this lens. So let's talk about it. First of all, as we mentioned, cheap and plasticky construction, not weather sealed. This lens is not going to withstand abuse. It has some pretty strong vignetting at the widest aperture, but that's pretty standard when it comes to a lot of prime lenses. Oh yeah, if we really want to nitpick here, I don't know if you can see this, guys, but the front element of the lens is actually pretty deeply recessed. Some people say it's a bit harder to clean. I don't really think this is a negative because it also acts as a kind of protection. Finally, guys, even though this lens is very small, compact, and light, some people love to hate it because they're not getting along with the 50mm focal length. They find out that just because they buy a 50mm lens, they didn't become Henri Cartier-Bresson. They're not taking beautiful artistic images by default, and they start blaming the focal length. But I think this lens is a very, very good learning tool, guys. And even if you're not in love with the focal length, even if you think it's too close or not close enough, I think if you challenge yourself, this lens will reward you. Some would say, okay, what is the point of a 50mm lens? Zooms are better these days than they were in the past, and if you get a 24-70 2.8, it's the same or better than this optically. And I would say, okay, yeah, you're probably right. But look at the price, look at the weight, look at the size. Just a simple comparison means that you're more than likely to bring this lens along with you. Guys, this is a perfect lens for a single focal length challenge. Have you ever challenged yourself to take photos with just one focal length? You will see compositions that you would otherwise never see. You won't worry about being at the right zoom. You will just learn to compose and learn to make do with what you have. 50mm is close enough to our kind of standard normal field of view that it becomes a simple photographic tool. It doesn't distort anything too much, right? It's not going to distort when it comes to landscapes. It's not going to distort when it comes to portraits. It's just kind of in between. For some people, it might be a boring focal length. I've seen this term used more and more these days. Oh, 50mm is boring. I don't like it. I prefer the 28 because I grew up with phones, or I prefer 85 because I need some kind of compression. But the versatility of this lens should not be underestimated. Considering its capabilities in lower light situations, I think I could reasonably use this lens to cover street photography, documentary. I could do portraits, and I have done portraits, and I'll show you portraits. You can do pet photography, you can do landscape photography. This lens is perfect for travel photography. I mean, if I only had one lens and I didn't have access to a 24-70, I could probably shoot a wedding with this lens. I could shoot an engagement shoot. I wanted to show you some sample images that I've taken with this lens. Right off the bat, let's start with something difficult. I was trying to take pictures of some of Hong Kong's last remaining neon signs. These are very beautiful, and unfortunately they're being replaced with LED lights because LED lights are cheaper and safer. Now I often find myself having to back up to get the whole sign in frame. So for this project it would have been nice to have a professional level zoom, but I was able to make it work with the 50. You can also absolutely use this lens for general travel photography, and here I'll show you some more nighttime pictures I took. Everything's handheld, no tripods. I was absolutely blown away by what's possible with this lens, the sharpness, coupled with the high ISO of today's cameras. Here you can see some more shots I took around Hong Kong with it. I'll also show you some landscape shots that I took with it. A landscape doesn't have to mean a super wide shot of some rocks on a beach. It's actually pretty nice to have a longer lens. And if you don't have access to a 70-200, and if you just have room for one lens, might as well make it the 50. Of course, it's also a great portrait lens. Some people would say they wouldn't use it for upper body shots because it distorts too much, and they would prefer a 85mm or 105mm because it's a more natural look. I've taken plenty of portraits with this lens and people were completely fine, happy with the results. You can use it for pet photography, no problem. It autofocuses very quickly. The minimum focusing distance is actually a lot better for taking pictures of pets that are constantly trying to run up to you. So works completely fine, and pets don't care if you distort their face a little bit. People fall into two camps these days, those that like the 35 and those that prefer the 50. For me, I prefer the 50. If I want to go wider than this, I want to get something that's at least 28mm, because when you step back a few steps or step forward a few steps, you kind of get something that's in the range of 40-60 anyway. Highly recommended for FX and DX shooters. Pick this one up, new or used, doesn't matter. Just a great all-around lens and a great focal length. A lot has been said. I've said my piece. Go out and get one, take some photos, and show us what you shot. As always, thanks for watching the videos, and I'll talk to you guys later.